Glen, NRA ILA's Grassroots Division Director. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing a few moments. I know it's a very busy time for you right now.
Well, thank you for having me again. I always enjoy it.
You bet. Less than 2 weeks to go before Election Day. And can you kind of update NRA members and our audience as to what the NRA is doing right now?
Well, I think as our campaign slogan has indicated, we are all in. We have got our 25 campaign field reps with their foot in the gas pedal in 13 different states, knocking on doors, attending gun shows, going to shooting ranges and gun shops, making phone calls, and otherwise spreading the word about the importance of not only voting on Election Day, but amplifying our volunteers and our members' voices by having them contact their family, friends, and fellow firearm owners with that same message. And I think it's paying off. We're seeing terrific enthusiasm, attendance at events, and I think if the pro-Second Amendment community is any indication of how these elections go, we're very well positioned for success on Election Day. But, Cam, like I say every year, our success isn't going to happen by accident. We still have 13 days to go, and we can't hope to succeed unless we keep our foot right in the gas pedal right through the last vote being cast on Election Day.
Absolutely, and it's never too late to get started volunteering. I mean, if you go to nraila.org, you hit that volunteer button, you can be making a difference tomorrow.
Well, we've got something for everybody. We understand that everybody has different time demands, and like I always like to say, we can't expect everybody to do everything, but our goal is to work to ensure everybody does at least something, because that can really pay dividends 13 days from now.
All right, so Glenn, any anecdotes that you can share with us from some of these battleground states in terms of like voter contacts that the NRA has made, numbers compared to a few years ago or anything like that?
Well, the size and scope of our program is much larger and in a much more coordinated effort nationwide than it has been in the past, primarily because of the import of these elections. You know, we have now seen with the past 4 years exactly what Barack Obama is doing to the Constitution, what his plans are for the future if he never has to face voters again. So I think there's a renewed commitment and a renewed energy this time around to making sure he is not reelected. One of my favorite anecdotes was a NRA member who sent me a picture the other day, opening day of deer season in his neck of the woods, and he shot his first buck right next to one of our Defend Freedom, Defeat Obama yard signs, and he snapped a picture of it and sent it to me. So I think that really kind of blended the support and the passion people have for the Second Amendment hunting, but also the realization of how important it is to be active in defending those rights.
Yeah, and, you know, especially, did you see an uptick in interest from people who were wanting to get involved after the second debate when Barack Obama said that he did want to ban guns in a second term?
You know, we have, and it's a function of, I think, Barack Obama confirming what every one of us knew, and hearing that come from his own lips, I think, really energized a lot of the voters, but also because I think the closer we get to the election, the more people realize that we literally only have a few more days to make a difference. So the uptick has been tremendous, and what's really telling, more so than any other year, Cam, is how many calls and emails I've received literally in the last 2 hours, 24 hours, from people and volunteers outside of battleground states who are willing to travel to a battleground state or at minimum make phone calls from their home state into one of these key states because they realize how important this election is, and they do realize that it'll ultimately come down to, you know, a dozen or so key states that will determine the outcome of the election. You know,
I'm glad to hear you say that, Glenn. I remember last time I talked with Sean Maloney, one of the NRA EVCs in Ohio. He had talked about 100 NRA members busing in from Tennessee to go into the Buckeye State. So you're seeing that, and even if folks can't travel, you're saying they can man the phones and make phone calls to battleground states.
Absolutely. We have a mechanism by which people can get a list of targeted voters in key states and instructions with a script, and they can make them from their home. We have a predictive dialer system where people can call into an 800 number and type in a password and start making calls right away. So there's something for everybody to do within their own state borders or even beyond. I know we have folks from Texas going into Ohio. We just recently sent a missive out for some Southern Californians who are interested in going to the Las Vegas area. So people are really willing to demonstrate their support for the Second Amendment, not just with their ultimate act of volunteerism by voting for our candidates on Election Day, but rolling up their sleeves and putting their noses to the grindstone all across America to actively get involved to positively affect the outcome of the election.
Talking with Glen, NRA ILA's Grassroots Division Director. And again, the website is nraila.org. Just click the volunteer button, and that's how you get started. 13 days now, Glenn, and is the NRA going to be competitive in all 13 states from here on out?
I think so. We've had folks in these targeted 13 states, many of them who've been working since May. And these aren't people who just visit the state every once in a while. These campaign field reps have been embedded, living in the key congressional districts, the key regions of these states since the late spring, early summer, facilitating relationships, getting to know the key players, organizing folks early on for this last push, this last get-out-the-vote push. So I think as far as a pro-Second Amendment coalition and pro-freedom voters, we are fighting the fight where it needs to be. But the one thing I can't stress enough is it isn't going to happen by accident. We have to have people show up and vote on Election Day, and we have to have people in the remaining 13 days contacting other voters to make sure they show up on Election Day.
Absolutely. Hey, Glenn, listen, I really appreciate your time, sir, and maybe we can check in once again before Election Day.
I would love to, Cam.
All right, thanks so much. Glen Caroline, NRA ILA's Grassroots Division Director, one of the hardest working guys. But you know what? There are a lot of men and women across the country who are working just as hard. Next 13 days, you can too. The NRA says to be all in this election year. And again, NRAILA.org. That's your gateway to get started.